Since 1965, the ACEC Life Health Trust has provided innovative healthcare benefits and services to ACEC member firms. We offer a variety of benefits to meet the unique needs of your firm, including fully insured, level funded, stop loss, and ancillary products. Visit our website at aceclifehealthtrust.com to learn more about our affordable employee benefit options for ACEC member firms, backed by the financial strength of the ACEC Life Health Trust.
Hello and welcome to the Engineering Influence podcast from the American Council of Engineering Companies. I'm Allison Schneider, and I'm once again joined with two members of the ACEC Advocacy team to give us an update on Capitol Hill. Matt Reiffer, Vice President of Infrastructure Programs, and Katharine Mottley, Vice President of Tax and Workforce Policy. Great to have you. It's been a long weekend for folks in Washington, D.C. as the Senate moved forward on legislation to address climate change issues, along with taxes and prescription drug costs. Last week, we told you about this bill, which was driven by Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer in private discussions with Senator Joe Manchin. In those discussions, they came up with a bill Joe Manchin, who is a moderate Democrat, could support after he had thwarted earlier efforts to get this across the finish line. Democrats are, of course, trying to pass this piece of legislation before the midterm elections in November. But soon after this was announced, we heard from Senator Kyrsten Sinema about changes she wanted included. Katharine, tell us about what happened since we spoke last week. I know there was a 15-hour vote-a-rama over the weekend, as you promised.
Yes, that's right. So after Senator Manchin and Senator Schumer announced their deal, everyone was waiting with bated breath to find out, would Senator Sinema support it? And in the end, she did, but she required a couple of changes to the bill before she could promise her vote. So she asked for a couple of changes. One of them was to change some changes to this corporate minimum tax on really large publicly traded corporations, trying to help out the manufacturers by accounting for depreciation. The other provision she was not pleased with was this change to how the income of hedge fund managers and private equity is taxed. It's usually referred to as carried interest. So they ended up pulling that provision out of the bill, but then had to add a couple more to account for some of these changes. And there was, as you said, there was a 15-hour through the night vote-a-rama. Yes, the entire Senate stayed up all night, as did their staff. And once they got to Sunday afternoon, there was a really interesting on the Senate floor when Senator John Thune, Republican from South Dakota, offered an amendment that Senator Sinema and a couple of other kind of moderate, up for re-election, concerned about their elections, Democrats supported. And then right after that, a substitute was offered. And so the concerns that they had were addressed without the tax provision that Senator Thune was offering. In the end, they are extending a limitation on losses claimed by pass-through business owners. So this, could potentially affect some ACEC members. I've already sent out information looking for some feedback on that. But, in the end, they got to a yes, 50-51, and now it goes on to the House. The House is coming back on Friday, and they're expected to vote on the bill then.
As you noted, this does go to the House. They're scheduled for a vote on Friday. Matt, what caught your eye that was included or left out of this final bill?
Yeah, and I'd flag a couple things. And I think I mentioned earlier, part of the agreement with Senator Manchin was a side deal on permitting reform, infrastructure reviews subject to NEPA, and that didn't fit within the construct of a tax and spending package and the very strict budget rules that they've got. But there was a separate agreement that they would move forward with additional permitting reform. We have a little more detail on that now, a one-pager and a fact sheet and a draft bill text have been released, kind of outlining what that would include. It's specifically directed at energy permitting. And among the highlights, the president would be tasked with designating and prioritizing projects of strategic national importance, 25 high priority energy infrastructure projects. It was set timelines for permitting reviews. This is consistent thematically with what we saw in the FAST Act and in the IIJA in terms of having concurrent reviews and a single lead agency and moving things through the permitting council with a 2-year goal. And there's also a Clean Water Act, Section 401 permitting reforms, and clarifying jurisdiction over hydrogen pipeline and export facilities within FERC. So we're going to be reviewing that information, and the commentary we've seen, you get left out of the bill that gets voted on, and so what are the chances of actually getting a standalone vote on this? Or will it go by the wayside? We'll have to see whether it's actually gets up for a vote as promised, and then we'll be evaluating the extent of these reforms, how meaningful they are. The other piece that I would flag in the hours before the vote on the Budget Act bill, there was actually offered a resolution of disapproval from Senator Sullivan of Alaska, withdrawing the changes that the administration made on NEPA permitting and the implementation regulations for NEPA. Surprisingly, that actually passed 50-47. Senator Manchin voted with all of the Republicans to withdraw the NEPA rules from what the administration had put forward. That'll go to the House now. We expect a vote in September. The outlook is not great there, given the Democrat control and bigger majority there. But we'll see if that comes to fruition or not. But it did really send a message that the infrastructure groups and the development folks are very concerned about the withdrawal of those NEPA reforms that were done under the previous administration. So more to come on that. But again, an interesting development in the run-up to the vote with respect to infrastructure permitting. And that's obviously an ongoing priority for ACEC and our members.
Matt, Katharine, a lot of moving parts on this. Thank you for tracking it so closely and keeping us up to speed. This has been another Engineering Influence podcast from the American Council of Engineering Companies. Thanks for listening.